Security deposits. Okay, tenant just moved out. What do you do? What can he charge for? What can he not charge for? It all begins as a landlord to do this prior to a tenant moving in. Make sure that you have the written documentation. You set those expectations up front. Your move out guidelines should be a part of your lease. So you're setting those expectations up front with your residents, and there's no he said, she said. So everybody's on the same page in the very beginning. Hi. My name is Danielle Brooks, and I'm owner of Beyond Property Management. I've been in the industry for 25 years and counting. I love real estate. I feel like real estate is the best real estate investment you could have for yourself and your personal legacy. And I'm here to share a little bit of tidbits. So, security deposits. You collect your security deposit from the resident. It's usually equal to 1 month's rent. At Beyond Property Management, we do $25 less because I don't want a resident to think that the security deposit is to be used as last month's rent. So by having different numbers, it works. You know, if rent's $3,000 and the security deposit is $29.75, it's a different number. We've been using that for many years and it's worked for us because I don't want someone to say, hey, I paid last month's rent when they didn't. If you are doing security deposit in last month's rent, well, guess what? Last month's rent is considered a security deposit. Pet rent is considered a security deposit. A security deposit needs to be 100% refundable. 100% refundable. You can't charge mandated cleaning fees. It's not an Airbnb. It's not a VRBO. A security deposit needs to be 100% refundable, meaning if they're doing $29.75 and they have $500 in rent and $400 in other charges, you need to make sure that you get back the remaining. You can't just collect the security deposit and keep it for yourself because you feel entitled to it because they were a pain in the butt. No, you can't do that. A security deposit is the resident's money, not yours. And so when a resident vacates, you should have already sent them your move out cleaning guidelines. Hopefully it was already in the original lease that they signed or the addendum to the lease, and because you haven't done it thus far, you have to understand that there's shelf life. So just because the resident decided to put up their own photos on the wall and you could see where they had nail holes, and even though they patched the nail holes, it just, it looks funky and the wall needs to be repainted. If the resident lived in the property for over 3 years, you can't charge for paint. I don't care even if they went against the lease and they painted the walls silver. Obviously, they're not supposed to do that. That's why it's important that you do your yearly inspections and make sure that you have boots on the ground. So you're setting those expectations up front and they're not allowed to do alterations. But you're going to lose in court if you have to use 5 coats of paint to paint that silver wall back to the white wall. I've seen it happen before. If a resident lives in the property for over 3 years, it doesn't mean you as a landlord needs to repaint the wall. However, you want to be able to fix it up to a habitable property. You're going to paint the wall, and you can't charge that resident because they lived in the property for 3 years, and 3 years is your shelf life of paint. Because that's what the Home Builder Association is saying. They're saying the shelf life of paint is every 3 years. Now, if a resident lives in the property for 1 year and you have to paint that wall, then you can charge the resident for the remaining shelf life, meaning you have to as the landlord, eat up 1/3 of the cost, and the remaining cost, the remaining 2/3 of the cost is going to be a resident cost because it was fully painted at move-in. You had to repaint it 1 year later because they decided to put up that photo or there's flashing on the wall, so you want to paint corner to corner, and so you charge the resident 2/3 of that remaining cost. So we at Beyond Property Management base it on a 3-year, and we base it by months. So if it's 16 months, that's how we divide it. So it's based on 32 months. The shelf life of carpet, we use 7 years. So you can't just say, hey, I'm replacing the carpet, and even though I lived in the property for 10 years prior and the resident moved in, but it looked brand new, because I need to replace it now, I'm going to charge the tenant. You can't do that. The shelf life is 7 to 10 years based on the quality of the carpet. So if the tenant lived in the property for 1 year and you have to replace the carpet because of a pet using the carpet or they spilled bleach on the carpet, I'm not sure exactly what happened to that carpet, but you got to replace it. You couldn't just do carpet cleaning. You have your before photo You have your after photo showing that bleach stain, and you have your, hey, I replaced the carpet, here's the receipt, and here's the photo of the living room showing that the carpet was replaced. If the resident lived in the property for 1 year, you would be responsible for 1/7 of the cost. The resident would be responsible for the remaining shelf life, which is 6/7 of the cost. So make sure you calculate shelf life and all of your breakdowns for the security deposit. You have to understand that the resident needs to have their itemization sent to them, mailed to them, or their final itemization sent to them within 21 days. If they're supposed to move out on the 30th of the month and they give you full possession on the 25th of the month, that is day 0. When they give you full possession, even if it's before that 30-day notice that they're supposed to give, and technically they're responsible for rent till the 30th of the month, day 0 is the 25th of the month. So you have 21 days after that to send out that security deposit. That's not a lot of time. And on that security deposit, you have to have the before photos, the after photos, and the fixed photos. That's imperative. That is a new law that California is mandating. I like that law. I think it's great. It just makes it very difficult to do all this within 21 days. So if you had a cleaning bill in the very beginning, you clean the property, by a professional, it costs $300. You can't just charge the resident $300 the next time around because they didn't keep the property as in to move-in condition. You have to calculate wear and tear. Maybe use 10% for that wear and tear, but you have to have proof. You need to say the stove was dirty, the windowsills were dirty, in the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. Here's the before, here's the after, and here's the proof that they were done. The invoices need to show the name of the person doing the work, their email address, their mail. Look up Civil Code 1950.5 in California. Follow every single step there, but security deposits can cost you thousands if you don't follow the rules. They're 100% refundable to the resident minus any costs. So abide to the rules. Make sure you don't get sued, because if you get sued, and even if it costs $2,000 worth of damage out of that $2,975 security deposit, if you didn't send it out within 21 days, they could get double the security deposit. So they could get, in essence, 3 times. So that's $9,000 plus the other cost of the $2,000. So you could be out of pocket $11,000 because you didn't send it out within 21 days. So go with a professional. Don't try to treat yourself, because it's not worth it. Document, document, document.